Welcome to Treetop Environmental News, this last day of January 2014. I am Fidget, bearing this week's summary of headlines of global environmental news. As the Sea Shepherd battles the Japanese whaling fleet in the southern seas and the Cove Guardians witness the dolphin slaughters in Japanese Tahiti port, we report today the extinction alerts of North Pacific right whales, now under 500 in number, and the southern right whale, which is experiencing a mysterious die-off in Argentinian waters, where hundreds of calves have died in the last few years. In this last week, the number of dead pilot whales has dramatically increased to over near 30 near Fort Myers, Florida, and maybe as many as 100 in New Zealand waters, where 50 have been confirmed dead and dozens are missing. In California, environmentalists and scientists are alerting the public that the coho salmon cannot get into the rivers as the waters are too low. Many are dying at the mouths of the rivers on the beaches. The lack of rain and overuse of state waters by humans is the primary cause of this catastrophe. Scientists have pinpointed the last drought as severe as the current California drought was in 1580 and warned that the mega droughts, which have not happened since before that, could last as long as 250 years. In Los Angeles, microbeads, nanoparticles of plastic that have broken down to their size from all plastic waste, has been identified as a huge threat to all living beings and is now being seen throughout the LA River and flowing into the ocean. These particles are created all over the world as the sun and other erosive elements break down plastics, which then can enter the blood of living beings. Radioactive barrels covering over 540 square miles of ocean floor off of California and the East Coast are not being monitored as they decay, rust, and contaminate the oceans. For 40 years, the United States dumped low-level and weapons-grade radioactive waste into the waters from 300 to 3,000 feet deep and just walked away. Environmentalists warn that the contaminant is already breaching and adding to the ongoing radioactivity from the Fukushima's 3 reactors meltdowns, which are expected to produce radiation in the oceans and the atmosphere for another 100 years. In Japan, a new law punishes government employees with 10 years of imprisonment for revealing state secrets related to the Fukushima disaster and cover-up, and journalists face 5 years in prison for writing stories that reveal one of these secrets. Meanwhile, worldwide, governments have raised acceptable radiation levels in food supplies, basing these changes on politics and not science. The European Union, Japan, Canada, and the USA all just raised their levels of acceptable radiation in our food, water, and air. The EPA in the United States claims radiation levels are decreasing and have returned to routine RADNET monitoring, while top independent scientists are saying levels are increasing and have called for increased monitoring. Numerous radioactive particles have been detected in milk, water, and air tests nationwide since the magnitude 9.0 earthquake and tsunami struck the power plant on March 11th. But agency officials said Friday the levels were so minuscule they were not harmful to the public health. After seeing the levels drop in recent weeks, EPA cut back to resume sampling water and milk once every 3 months. But some critics felt the move was premature given that the world's second worst nuclear accident is still unfolding. In Canada, daily monitoring has been rolled back to weekly. Newly released studies show that Fukushima's explosions released an enormous deadly plume of radioactivity in the Arctic, where it landed on ice and then began contaminating seals and other wildlife, which are now sick and dying of radiation poisoning. Scientists claim that the radiation is also in Alaska's seafood, but the governor and other officials in Alaska refuse to test seafood, claiming that other government bodies have already said it is safe to eat. The Kenyan government has sent Kenyan Forest Service guards with police support to Mbabit Forest in the Shangani Hills to forcibly and illegally evict thousands of Sengwer indigenous people from their ancestral forest lands and burn homes and belongings. Shangani Hills rolling slopes in western Kenya highlands are one of the country's 5 main forests. In their forest glades high in the Shangani Hills, Sengwer homes have been torched for the last 10 days. Today, the administrative police have forced in to forcibly evict those who remain. These are the same police who have been issued a specific court order requiring that they arrest anyone carrying out Sengwer evictions. The Sengwer and their defenders say that by carrying out these evictions and burnings, the Kenyan government is ignoring the orders of its own courts and its constitution and its international legal commitments. These evictions also violate international law and human rights, biodiversity, conservation, and sustainable use, and threaten the survival of their way of life. In Australia's Laird Forest, over 100 people have shut down construction of the controversial Maules Creek coal mine project, escalating a blockade of the site that has been underway for weeks. 4 groups of protesters have blocked 4 entrances in Laird State Forest. Another 2 are in the protection area on tripod structures that are preventing Whitehaven Coal from continuing preliminary construction work. Maules Creek local Rosalind Druce is among the 100 people at the blockade today. She says, "This blockade has given our community hope that we are not just the collateral damage of the coal industry. It is the forest that has brought everybody together. This blockade is doing the job the government should have done, protecting an irreplaceable forest." Among those risking arrest today is Bill Ryan, a legally blind 91-year-old Kokata veteran, who's taking part with his 65-year-old son. Bill is joined by men and women of all ages and backgrounds, all of them refusing to allow Whitehaven's coal contractors to enter the site to build the mine. In GMO news, Monsanto BT toxins found to kill human embryo cells. Monsanto's BT toxin is far from safe as the chemical company claimed it would be, filing their papers with the FDA. New research from Canada showed the BT toxins are showing up in pregnant women and are killing human embryo cells. It's called reproductive toxicology. And just like their suicide seeds, these BT toxins are starting to kill our own unborn children. In other GMO news, an experiment is being prepared that will release genetically engineered mosquitoes into the Florida Keys. Most Florida residents know nothing about this scheme. The engineered mosquitoes have E. coli genes and herpes virus genetics infused into them. The scientific community is outraged because there is no confirmed consent. A UK company has released these mosquitoes in the Cayman Islands and in Malaysia and Brazil without providing they are beneficial, and now plan to release them in the south of Florida. The county government has the authority to release these little monsters without citizen consent. Wow, another enormous fireball connected to the fossil fuel industry occurred this week. A natural gas pipeline operated by TransCanada Corporation exploded and caught fire in the Canadian province of Manitoba on Saturday, shutting off gas supplies for as many as 4,000 residents in sub-zero temperatures. We could see these massive 200 to 300 meter high flames just shooting out of the ground, and it literally sounded like a jet plane, resident Paul Rolock told the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. Woo, another destructive week in the environment. Please stay tuned to our Facebook page, Treetop Environmental News, for these details and more stories to come. Friend us, Trinidad Tree Sitters, on Facebook, aka Redwood Forest Defense. Treetop Environmental News is brought to you from the top of a giant redwood in a forest slated to be destroyed, along with the wildlife in the trees and below us on the forest floor. By Green Diamond Corporation.